Welcome back to the History Club podcast.
Woo! We are so excited to be back in a different space today, but it's okay because we have a very special guest today. Please welcome Anthony.
Yay, Anthony. Woo.
Very happy to be here. By the way, I just want to mention kudos to Owen and Campbell for being able to accommodate for my schedule, because I was very problematic with this in the past few weeks with my work schedule, and so they've been more than accommodating. I've been really appreciative of that. So
we are just so honored to have such an esteemed figure from this not real university here today for our Christmas special.
Yes, for our Christmas special. Look at the hat.
Heard, yes. Yeah,
we would make time for you anytime.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
We must ask, is this your first time on a podcast?
It is.
Oh
yes.
my god.
Yes, it is.
Oh my god.
You're so lucky.
We're getting him early.
Yeah. I know. Yeah, maybe this starts a trend. So maybe you guys are the trendsetters.
Yeah. All right. Well, in honor of our Christmas special, last week we filmed a Hanukkah special, and we led off with some questions about Hanukkah. So I can start with Christmas.
All right.
What's your favorite Christmas tradition?
My favorite Christmas tradition, I think I'm going to have to go with the 7 fish.
Oh.
Have you heard of the 7 fish?
Yes.
Maybe. Okay, yeah, I imagine. Yes.
Yeah.
So the 7 fish is, I think it's specifically Italian American.
Okay.
But it's just a tradition where every Christmas Eve, you essentially only have seafood. It's not just seafood, like obviously you can have side plates and other types of dishes, but you're not supposed to have any actual meat whatsoever in the Catholic definition, because the Catholics don't define fish to be meat. And so I actually need to do a little bit more research on this, but I believe it actually relates to sort of the preparation of Christmas, because of the fact that you're sort of omitting meat the day before the real celebration. Just like with Easter, how you give up meat every Friday during Lent before Christ is arisen. So I think it's sort of a similar phenomenon to that, as to why it grows to be a tradition that fish is just something to eat for Italian Americans on Christmas Eve. But it's my favorite tradition because I sort of get to eat a lot of different dishes I wouldn't normally get the chance to eat. So I guess eel is one of them. My grandmother, God bless her, she will cook up some pretty good eel and other stuff. I don't know how she does it. I think also I'll have sort of this cold calamari salad. So obviously fried calamari is very common, but you really can't get cold calamari, especially in like a salad format, much anywhere else. So that's sort of my chance to have it for the year. And then I'm trying to think of any other dishes that I really like. Usually my grandmother personally will make linguine with scallops, and that's very, very nice. So yeah, love the 7 fish.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Pretty wide range of fish.
Yes. Yeah. I'm not a huge seafood fan, and I think that's why I sort of like this tradition, because it's like my chance to just like have all the seafood I want, and I'm sort of satisfied. Yeah. Only really have it a little more throughout the year.
Yeah.
That's nice. Okay. I wanted to ask you, how good are you when it comes to gift wrapping?
Oh, terrible. Absolutely horrendously abysmal. I think part of the reason why I'm terrible at gift wrapping is because I have been blessed with having 2 older sisters who can kind of carry the weight for our parents' presents and others' presents throughout the years. So it's something I definitely want to be better at, but I think my best capability when it comes to gift wrapping is just like maybe like discs, like, disc cartridges or anything in a box format, like a board game or things of that sort. Outside of that, forget it. Don't make me gift wrap anything beyond that, because not only will my taping job be terrible, but I also will be absolutely terrible when it comes to finding the right amount of wrapping to use. I'm terrible at estimating that. My geometry skills in general are awful. So yeah, terrible would be the answer.
Same here.
Are you ahead on the shopping though? Or?
Kind of. All right. I mean, I guess you won't see this. So, and this will be actually very good for the history podcast. So I wanted to get my dad's really into Roman history. I'm also really into Roman history myself. Sorry, I tapped my mic there. And after having come back from Italy to visit some family in October, I've sort of reinvigorated my passion for Roman history. And I realized maybe I should get something a little different for my dad. And so I'll be honest, I haven't really got anything for anyone else. So this is why I'm sort of leaning on this story specifically at the moment. And I know one of my dad's favorite Roman generals was Germanicus, who died suddenly. I believe it was 19 CE. So he was sort of in the Judeo-Claudian dynasty and was really meant to be a successor, potentially to Tiberius or further on, and that never happened. Obviously, we saw what happened with Caligula. That was a disaster, got assassinated. And so I was wondering if I could get a coin of Germanicus, because obviously the Romans didn't just mint coins of emperors, they minted coins of very well-known figures, including Germanicus. So I was able to find a coin of various different coins, but I didn't realize, one, how expensive they are. Coins in like even fair condition can be $500+. Yeah. So I was able to find some reasonable prices, but to be honest, my sisters already had some other ideas to what to get our dad. And so we decided that we're gonna get the coin for his birthday in 3 months, because it's coming up pretty soon. So that was sort of my Christmas gift idea for the moment. When it comes to my two other sisters, my mom, I sort of lean on one of each other to get the other's gifts, or at least get ideas, of course, just because I'm not the best when it comes to knowing exactly what they want. So yeah, a tad bit behind on that, but feeling better, because I feel like during my college years, I would just be cooped up in my dorm or elsewhere studying, and then gifts unfortunately would be in the back of my mind. But now, with that not being the case, I realize, I can actually think about this from the start of the Christmas season. So a little bit more ahead of the game than I was in previous years, but still could be a little better. Yeah, a little tidbit about Germanicus. my dad's love for the Roman general.
It's good history.
I didn't know about Germanicus.
Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, he's named Germanicus because he defeated many Germanic tribes up north, and then that's actually, so a little other tidbit. The reason why his son Caligula, his real name I think is Gaius Caesar. The reason why he's called Caligula, which translates to Little Boots, is because he grew up in a military camp up near sort of east of Gaul. So he always was wearing these big military boots around the camp, and so everyone called him Little Boots, Caligula, and that name stuck even when he was briefly emperor before he got unfortunately assassinated. So yeah.
Wow. We're learning a lot.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I need to study up on my Roman history.
I think we too.
What are you asking for this Christmas?
Oh, what am I asking for? Okay, so honestly, when I was thinking what I was asking for, it was a little bit depressing because it was all like work related now. I was like, I want a tie clip. I want new dress socks. And I was like, kind of excited about this, but I was like, why am I excited about this? Tie clip, dress socks. I've started to collect a decent number of ties, as you can see here. And so I also am looking for like a better way to organize my ties, because right now in my closet, they are all just hanging on one singular hanger. And it is starting to get quite crowded on that singular hanger, because I like getting my ties and having a good variety of ties. So that is definitely something I want to try and get. I also wanted to get actually a Drake made nor'easter winter hat from the new collection. Unfortunately, it's actually not that expensive for a winter hat, but they have been like sold out across the board from what I'm hearing. So it's been a little tough. People I think are liking that new collection with the nor'easter designs and uniforms and whatnot much more than I was expecting, to be honest. I mean, I love that color scheme. I also I'm not gonna lie, I sort of asked my parents, I was like, I can help contribute, but is it possible to get maybe a Drake May jersey, which would be quite nice. And then we realized it was like $130, and I was like, let's not. Like, I love Drake May. You have my heart, but maybe a little bit too much to spend. Because I was sort of thinking of something 100 or lower for official jerseys. So that seems a little bit too much. But I've been starting to get into like getting more jerseys. I have my Payne Pritchard jersey that I love very much. That my sisters got for me very graciously last year. So I definitely want to get some more jerseys, but maybe when they're at a little bit more of a reasonable price. So I guess a coming back around to the main question, largely just asking for a lot of work-related items to make my life easier day to day. So that's really about it.
Understandable. Yeah. Now may I transition? Would that be okay? Yeah. We can get back to Christmas later, but you have a big new job.
I do have a big new job.
Do you want to tell our audience about that in as vague of terms as you might like?
So I work for a state government. One.
A specific one.
And two, I work for a legislative clerk's office. So essentially the type of work we do, we're a nonpartisan office, and it's entirely administrative. So we essentially process and organize all the bills, orders, resolves, and other types of different various documents that will come through the legislature and be sort of distributed to their various different committees. And essentially, it's a lot of organization, and it's a lot of sorting and understanding the intricate rules of the state legislature when it comes to not only how bills process themselves through their stages until they can be voted on to be enacted, but also when it comes to how the proceedings of the legislature function, because we have to attend part of the office every single legislative session. Mm-hmm. And so some of them, they'll be quick, 10 to 30 minutes. Others could be perhaps several hours. We had one go from 11 a.m. to 9:30 with some breaks in between, of course. But recently,
Votorama over there.
Yes. So it's definitely a little more. It on the surface, it seems mundane. It seems a little bit routine, but it can actually be pretty dynamic and pretty cool. And you get to interact with a lot of really interesting people just on a day-to-day basis, because being part of a nonpartisan office, you're obligated, and I think you're, in my sense, privileged to work with a lot of people of different perspectives. So that part of it becomes really, really interesting. And honestly, sort of a side effect would be that it keeps you very informed of what legislation is coming through the state legislature, what may be passed, where it is, at what stage. You're almost ahead of the news in a sense sometimes. So that's honestly pretty cool at times. So it's probably as decent of a summary as I can get.
That's a good one.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's a good one. Is there anything that surprised you the most about the State House, just as like an entity?
Okay, that is a very interesting question. I did not realize when it comes to the State House how small the building feels in terms of its social network, I guess would be the best way to put it. You would think that with the State House and the state government, there are so many different employees and with all their functions that are out and about all the time. And it is a very active building. There are constantly events ongoing, but a lot of people work in various different buildings if they're part of executive offices or different branches of the state government. And alongside that, I think ever since the pandemic, a lot of people now work fully remote or hybrid. And so on a day-to-day basis, it's actually pretty interesting, because even outside my own office is only 8 people. It's really not that many people. Even outside my own office, you see the same people over and over. And it's kind of funny, because you think to yourself, is there anyone else here? Like, it feels like there are like only 50 people here at most. Yeah. And part of that is because you're sort of nestled into your own little corner in the building, no matter where you are. So you're going to bump into the same people over and over. But I think a lot of it is sort of the reasons I also explained, where you have people from other parts of the government, whether it's the executive office or other branches, working in different buildings. And then alongside that, you have people working remotely or hybrid. So it's a small world. You people, like, for example, I got to know through a fictional university, a certain representative, and because he was also an alum from here. And I actually happened to just randomly catch him, like, in the corridor one day. And even though he works in an office like completely to the opposite side of our building, or where our office is, I'm sorry. So it is actually pretty interesting that you get to see such a wide scope of people, even though it seems like a small number of people, just because of the fact that it's just a small world there. You think it's a big building, but you think people are all in their little corners, like I said, but really they are everyone's working together if they're not even if they don't realize it, I guess would be the best way to put it. So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
What's it like getting to know like the representatives on like a more personal level as compared to like these figures as like just random people that you haven't interacted with? Like, what's it like getting to know them on a more personal level?
Yeah, so this is honestly, in my opinion, the most fun part of the job, because especially since we get to attend legislative sessions, in between, like, there'll be a lot of recesses during those sessions. In between those times where they're actually debating and during those recesses, you get to see their personalities kind of come out. Even if, like, obviously you may not hear every conversation that's going on, but you'll be able to see them interacting with others in a much more casual, genuine format. And I think that's so interesting because you get to have an idea of what their personalities exactly are. Actually, one little story from last week, there was a legislator who came into our office just with a quick question, and he was talking about how he was the coach of his town's travel basketball team. I think it was 7th and 8th grade, or actually 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And he was talking about, oh yes, indeed. I have no shame. I have no shame. I love the new, by the way, I don't know if you've seen it, the Grinch at some amusement park was like interacting with this kid. He was like 6, 7, he's like 8, 9. I kind of like that. But we had the senator come in and he was just talking about a personal story. He's coaching this team, travel team, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade kids from his town. And he had to later in that day sit down with each of the kids he was planning to not have on the team and tell them they were not on the team, because that's like the tradition that they do. And
it's devastating.
Which is, it's devastating, especially to have that in a one-on-one conversation, especially with these 12, 13-year-olds. And so it was sort of interesting because I realized, I was like, oh, this guy's not just a legislator. Yeah. He's a father, he's a husband, he's a basketball coach. And so that's, in my opinion, what makes it so interesting. I think also alongside that, a good number of the legislators are lawyers. However, a lot of others come from various different professions. And sometimes you get to sort of see those backgrounds come out a bit. There was one particular senator who has previous military service. And you can kind of tell that he has a very bold, outgoing personality. And I was like, oh, you know what? Now I remember it. He serves on our Veteran Affairs Committee. I was like, oh, and I put, looked a little bit more into it and put 2 and 2 together, realized he had served in the armed forces. So it's sort of interesting seeing those personalities come alive. I think it's also, interesting to, now I know where sort of every legislature is within the state in terms of their district, but it is interesting seeing how their personality may differ based on where they come from and sort of the district's microcosm of the culture. So I think that's also really, really fascinating as well to see that all unfold. I can't really think of any other interesting examples, even though I feel like there are a good number. None of them pop to mind now. But yeah, I mean, it's you realize that these state legislatures, especially because they're serving in a local format, they do a lot more in their own personal lives than it's simply lawmaking. So you realize that they're people too, and not just sort of individuals on a screen writing laws, and then you don't see them for any time after that. So yeah,
that's good. And do you get to see the committee sessions, or are you
No, unfortunately. I mean, most hearings for committees are public. So if I wanted to, I could probably peer my head. Peer in through a few of them here and there. However, for the most part, I don't really. The committee sessions don't really, or hearings rather, don't really affect our office. More so the bills that come out of it and their reports. That's what we have to deal with and organize. So that's where we're more so focused on from there. So yeah.
So I want to kind of switch topics a little bit. Yeah. Because we've sort of danced around it a little bit, but I want to get into sports a little bit. Because I know that you're big into sports, as you've already discussed.
Yes, indeed.
And we actually are a part of a fantasy basketball league.
We are,
together.
yes, together, yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you how your fantasy basketball season's gone so far.
It has gone, honestly, as well as it could have. I actually, so this will get into a little bit of the details in the weeds, but I drafted Domantas Sabonis in the first round, which was a disastrous first-round pick just due to his injuries currently, and the circumstances with the Sacramento Kings are terrible. They might as well be full-on tanking for a high pick at this point. But essentially every one of my draft picks after that has been an absolute slam dunk. Off the top of my head, Josh Giddey's averaging a near triple-double. That has been fantastic for me. Alperen Sengun, who was my second round pick, has been unbelievable. He's now averaging, I think, over 7 assists a night, which is a big jump actually from last year, even though he was sort of the top playmaker on the Houston Rockets. And then I have a lot of other guys, who play a very specific role on their team, but are contributing to my team in a big way. Off the top of my head, Keyshawn George, Ryan Rollins, Keontae George. I wouldn't even say he's a role player. He's a full-blown point guard, averaging, I think he's averaging 23 points and 7 assists. So I love my numbers and statistics. Yeah, a lot of these guys, I don't really have a major star, but I have a lot of these guys equally contributing. And I completely forgot about Jalen Johnson.
Yeah,
I drafted Jalen Johnson.
Yeah.
I actually have 2 teams, and I drafted Jalen Johnson on both of them. And I'm actually right now debating whether or not to even put him on the trade block because Trae Young, when he comes back, may tank his value a little bit, but he is playing so well, not only as a rebounder and a scorer, 3-level scorer. He's 40% from 3, but as a playmaker as well, averaging right now over 7 assists. But I think without Trae Young, that's an even higher number. I honestly don't think I want to trade him because how can I trade someone who's literally right now a top 5, top 10 fantasy prospect in our league? And I picked him up. It was a 10-person league. I think I picked him up in the 3rd or 4th round. So picked him up outside the top 20 easily. So he has been well worth his draft capital. So yeah, my team's going as well as it can. I'm still unfortunately in second because Owen knows this already, but we started our season late, 3 days late. So I wasn't able to lock in certain scores we do a lock-in system through Sleeper, the very well renowned fantasy app. And so I wasn't able to lock in some scores when it came to the initial part of the regular season for that first week. So I subsequently lost my matchup sort of unfairly. But there's 21 weeks, so it doesn't really matter. I'm second in my league, and I've been winning ever since beat the person who's in first place. So yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, so I feel like personally, actually, I send out power rankings from time to time for a league, and I mean, I'll be honest, not to be egotistical, I put myself in first because I just beat the first place person pretty resoundingly, and no one is really. I mean, he came a little bit close, by the way, but no one has really come close.
I was sweating on that one.
Close to me. He had a pretty big Jokic performance that he had on my tail. So yeah, but yeah, fantasy team's doing quite well.
Wow. What place are you in?
I'm 4th or 5th.
Yeah, 4th or 5th. You're in a playoff spot, definitely. So.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I've got Jaylen Brown, Jokic, Steph Curry. He just came back from injury, so
yeah, that'll be good.
I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to. I need to get my win against him.
Yes.
He beat me. He beat me.
We'll see. I mean, we'll face one more time.
Yeah, we will.
I'm thinking of the schedule. Yeah, we will.
Yeah. We will. How are you feeling about the Celtics' performance this season?
Oh, okay. This is. I've been actually talking to this about some friends recently. Very good, honestly. Okay. I was ready for the tank to happen. I was a little scared, not because I thought that Jaylen Brown couldn't carry the load, but because we had been so incredibly gutted from all the talent we had developed over the past few years. Not developed, but more so acquired. That I got quite worried. But Jaylen Brown's playing much better than even I expected. And I'll talk a little more Jaylen Brown in a second. And also, we have so many different it feels like it's the first time in a while that we've had a plethora of role players, all hungry, all athletic, all playing defense. Jordan Walsh, Josh Minot, Neemias Queta. So it feels like this team is hungry and the talent is actively being developed before our eyes. And I feel like we had a very talented team in the past 2 years, but I feel like this is the first time we're seeing talent actually be developed because we have so many young players. Huge credit to Joe Mazzulla. I've always loved Joe Mazzulla, but I feel like this year he's showing what he's really capable of. Not only when it comes to, because I feel like everyone centered his identity around 3-point shooting, and now he's forcing everyone to play defense, and I feel like that's a huge step. When it comes to Jaylen Brown, first of all, like I just actually saw from the NBA that they have him fifth in their MVP rankings, which is phenomenal. I think that's absolutely deserved. I'll be honest, at the beginning of the season, I was quite skeptical. I thought, looking at his inefficiencies last year from three and just his general shot selection, taking a lot of like very contested mid-range twos, I was a little bit concerned with how he would look in this offense, because Tatum tends to be able to play make from driving so much and kicking out. And so it seems like Jaylen Brown's playmaking pretty well. Certainly not at the level that I saw from Jason Tatum last year, but it's good. It's very much sufficient. And I think the biggest thing is that he's third in usage in the league right now, like among all players. I think the only two players ahead of him probably are like SGA and either Giannis or Jokic. And despite that, he has been not marginally, but significantly more efficient than he was last year and in previous years from outside the arc and from inside the arc. It seems like he was almost working on those contested mid-range shots last year, and now they're starting to fall a lot more. Obviously, there was that tough loss to the Bucks last night, but it was such unlucky, terrible shooting. The team is still, I think, 15 and 10. 15 and 10. And so I think all this team has to do is just hover around like the 4th, 5th seed. And I genuinely believe, based on the film that I'm seeing, Tatum is going to return after the All-Star break. He's going to return mid to late January, and this team could be on the collision course to make a run for the finals. OKC is unbelievable, but make a run for the finals, especially considering the fact that the Eastern Conference is so weak this year.
Yes.
The teams that there have been some teams that stepped up, obviously the Pistons, and then the Magic, the Raptors sort of, and the Hawks have taken a bit of a step up, but not to the point where I think that any of those teams can really get to the finals. And the Cavs look disastrous. I do. Honestly, even with their injuries, I don't think they're going to be a contending team when they're healthy. They're not meshing well as they did in previous years. Evan Mobley's defense definitely took a dip. And so I think I'm not even worried about them. I think my biggest concern is the Knicks, who have been looking better as of late, as like the past week or two. So I think they're starting to pick up their stride. They're going to be the biggest competition in the East no matter what. And I think when all said and done at the end of the season, we may see the 1st and 2nd seed or 1st and 3rd seed be like Knicks Celtics. And I think that's going to be the Eastern Conference Finals matchup that we're going to have to be on the lookout for. So
that's going to be fun.
It will be fun. Yes.
It's a good prediction. I'm excited.
Do you think, this is the big question, I know what your answer may be, but do you think LeBron James will be retiring at the end of the season?
Oh, okay. So I'll start with this situation because he's in a very interesting predicament when it comes to his contract. LeBron decided to opt in to the second and final year of his, like, it was around like a 2-year, $100 million contract. I think it was a little more than $100 million. So he's taking on $53 million. And people were very skeptical about that move because of the fact that they thought with his career at its sunset, unfortunately, he was going to make more of an effort to play for the team financially and to take a cut if as necessary in order to allow the Lakers to sign other guys on the market. That didn't happen. He opted into that contract, which, even if he's 41, he deserves that back. I'm not going to blame him one bit for that move. Now, what makes people intrigued is that because of the fact that he takes on that contract, people were wondering, and it doesn't seem like this is the case whatsoever, but people were definitely speculating before the season started if LeBron was going to be traded before the deadline because of that financial situation in order to give another team the chance to maybe give him an extension that the Lakers would not be willing to give him after this year. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I do wonder if LeBron is going to make one last-ditch effort for another year or two to find another team. Obviously, this is the most compelling year out of any of his years that he may retire. The sciatica to start the season. He had some foot issues alongside that, and now we're seeing him come to an end with his 10-point streak, unfortunately, against the Raptors.
Very sad.
About a week ago. Very sad, but he did it off an assist to Rui Hachimura for that corner three. So goats doing goat things. But I do wonder where his head's going to be at the end of this year, because in my personal opinion, and I feel like this is even separate from my anti-Lakers bias as a Celtics fan.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Is that okay?
You can say that.
Yeah. I feel like this is separate from my anti-Lakers bias as a Celtics fan. LeBron may not be the fit. No, that's incorrectly worded. It's not LeBron's fault. But no, I'm generally serious. I think that this Lakers team is just not as good as people think it is. And we're starting to see that with some of their losses recently. Luka can't play defense. Austin Reeves can't play defense. LeBron is too old to play defense. I don't really blame him as much. Yeah. You don't really have any guys who can be plugged into the starting lineup and can genuinely play defense. DeAndre Ayton, to some extent, he's I think a better fit than people were expecting so far, which is good. But this team doesn't really have a defensive identity, either whether it's on the perimeter or at the rim. They really don't. And alongside that, their depth just isn't working out. I feel like we're seeing a repeat of the Lakers last year, where they have this really nice starting five, and no one else has supplemented after that starting five. Obviously, they signed Marcus Smart in free agency. They have Gabe Vincent, among other players. However, none of them are contributing at the level they need to make this team sufficient and whole. Actually, I think I saw a stat where they're like second to last or last in bench points, and that literally doesn't surprise me whatsoever, because this bench is still abysmal despite their free agent signings in the offseason. So with that all in consideration, I don't think, and now with Luka in the fray, the Lakers are going to be looking to build year after year, not really go all in immediately. And so I think with that, LeBron may try to go to another team. Now, I don't know how that's going to work, just because now with the new contract agreement with the NBA, it's actually really difficult to sign free agents reasonably. There's a whole plethora of reasons. Yeah, it's sort of affected the Celtics the most adversely. I'm sorry, CJ McCollum, you kind of suck. Yeah, but
Grant Williams.
But essentially, players are much more incentivized to take on contracts from their current team because they can get a bonus through a Supermax contract. Luka actually lost the opportunity to have a Supermax contract by getting traded. So he actually lost a ton of money from potential future contracts because he got traded away from the Mavs, which is really crazy to think about. And alongside that, with the first and second apron now implemented, teams just have so much difficulty being at the very top or above the salary cap, even for just a year. And so that's why I'm even if LeBron wanted to test the market, he would have to opt into a really, really cheap contract. And it would have to be with a team that I think he would really genuinely believe he could win with. And I hate to say it, but with how OKC is playing, they just got their 24th win. So they just matched the 73-win Warriors pace. The 73-win Warriors started out 24-1. Their first losses with their 25th game. The first loss for OKC was a little bit earlier in the season, but they just got their 24th win. So we could be seeing another dynasty absolutely being formed, especially because they're in a good financial situation too. Sam Presti is a mastermind, and really he's the only person I would consider even potentially to be a better GM, general manager, than Brad Stevens. So it's a really interesting situation, and I feel as if even if LeBron wanted to leave, and I do think he may, because of, all the reasons I stated with the Lakers' current situation. I don't know if there's a team that would really want to take on a situation like LeBron, someone who's going to be 42 next December. I think he may have just turned 41. He's going to turn 41. This is his birth month, by the way. December.
Celebrate.
And happy birthday, LeBron. In advance.
This is actually the LeBron James special.
Yes, indeed, actually. Sprite cranberry.
I miss those.
I know. We were just talking about, actually, just a quick side note, how I love Anthony Edwards, but Anta Claus with the Sprite Cranberry promotion is not the same as the LeBron James Sprite Cranberry promotion. It's just not the same.
No.
But I don't know if a team's going to want to take him on. We'll have to see. People are like, oh, maybe the Cavs will take him on. I'm like, well, the Cavs are just not as good as people think they are. I don't really believe in them. We're not seeing the progress from Evan Mobley that people want to see from him. And so it's going to be an interesting situation because he's going to have to sign a new contract after this point. And I don't even know if a team wants to sign a 2-year contract with him. They may only do like a 1-year contract. And if it's a 1-year contract, it's going to be a cheap contract. So we'll see. It feels like the first year where genuinely LeBron, because of his injuries, might not make the All-Star game. Or he'll probably make the All-Star game because it's so voter-based, which is very nice. But this may be the first year where we don't see LeBron make an All-NBA team, and he's not sort of in the mainstream of the NBA news. So it's going to be really interesting. This is unprecedented territory for 2 decades.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Now you're a big LeBron fan, as we can tell.
Yeah.
Is he your favorite player, or is there somebody else?
He is not my favorite player, unfortunately. I do think he's the GOAT. I think he's the best player of all time. To my boss is a big Michael Jordan truther, and he said, "quote I wouldn't even put LeBron James in my top 10."
Wow!
And I had to hold my tongue there. He knows I'm a LeBron truther, but I had to hold my tongue there. I was like, "That's insane." That's like, you can put him above Jordan, which I disagreed with, but putting him outside the top 10 is insane. But my favorite player, honestly, I think right now is definitely Jason Tatum. I just think that he's such a Swiss Army knife for the Celtics and has been for so many years. And I think he's become my favorite player almost, I hate to say it, out of spite. Because people hate him so much for being corny, for being tame, and for his play style isn't boring, but it doesn't have a personality to it, right? When we think of LeBron James, we think of his celebration. It's different, his very rare sort of step celebration. We think of his knock your socks off dunks, and we think of all of these other types of plays he has. When we think of, I don't know, players like Steph Curry, obviously Steph Curry's iconic for his pick and roll threes. We think of James Harden, we think of his step back three. We think of, I can go on and on, Paul George, he's known for that big deep three where he pushed back the defender, and among other moves. Maybe that's a little bit more niche.
And then SGA, drawing fouls.
SGA known for drawing fouls, of course. I'm not the biggest SGA fan, but what I will say about SGA is that he has an unbelievable mid-range game, one that genuinely could rival Michael Jordan when all is said and done. But we're not going to get there. But Tatum doesn't have that moment where he's made himself iconic. I feel like every time he tries to, or maybe he indirectly and subconsciously tries to, it's seen as corny. And I hate that, because I'm like, he is such a phenomenal player. And I feel like before the unfortunate Achilles injury, his availability made him continually a top 3 player in the league for like at least 3-4 years. And I almost feel like this is going to sound like even more spiteful, but I almost feel like Celtics fans in some cases may not appreciate him. And it's not because they don't like him, but I think it's because they think of him like sort of under the echelon of Larry Bird, which is very reasonable, but Paul Pierce among others, like Kevin Garnett. And I'm like thinking to myself, this guy made 4 All-NBA first teams like it was nothing.
Yeah.
Like it was nothing. He did it selfishly. He didn't do it by trying to average 30 every single season. He only averaged 31 season. He didn't do it by trying to get double doubles constantly to stat pad to every extent possible. He did it by being a team player and a winning player. And I feel like people don't realize that. Personally, I'll be honest, like I don't know how it would all work out in terms of the list. I would have Tatum above Paul Pierce in all-time Celtic talks. So I feel like my love for him is out of a lack of appreciation from others from him. Not Celtics fans mostly. It's mostly certainly other people, but they're just hateful that they don't have Jason Tatum and the privilege of watching him play for their team. But yeah, I feel like he's my favorite player almost out of spite, and I hate to say that. Maybe my favorite non-Celtics player to briefly touch on that. I don't know if I have one in particular. Oh, it's got to be Jokic. I'm sorry. What am I saying? It's Jokic. Jokic won me my fantasy league last year, but it's not just that. I just love watching it. It's just it's poetic basketball. He plays basketball in an artistic form. That's all I'm going to say.
That's great.
Makes sense, yeah.
That's great.
And what would you say to those that are Michael Jordan GOAT believers?
Ooh, interesting. Okay. I would say to the Michael Jordan truthers that I don't think you realize how difficult it has become in the modern NBA, one, to win a ring, and I don't think you realize how difficult it has become for LeBron specifically to win a ring with his surrounding squads over the years. During LeBron's first tenure with the Cavs, I don't think he had a single All-Star as a co-star. And then he goes to the Heat. He wins 2. And you could say, well, he had 2 All-Star co-stars. Yeah, but they both fell off by 2014 when they lost to the Spurs again. Or at least LeBron personally lost to the Spurs again, because he lost in 2007. And so then he goes to the Cavs. And with the Cavs again in the second tenure, they actually have a pretty decent surrounding squad with Kyrie Irving, Kevin Love, among others. Managed to, I don't want to say that no one else other than Kyrie and him did anything, but them two really willed the Cavs to that 7-win game series over the 73-9 Warriors in 2016. And then we see Kyrie Irving request a trade, which I think, in my opinion, was disastrous for his career. I think that Kyrie is the perfect Robin, the people's Batman, and he tried to be a Batman, and it did not work.
Oh yeah.
And that obviously affected the Cavs too, because they lost their co-star, and LeBron was forced to be on his own and fend for himself with that team. And I don't think people realize, once again, how poor that surrounding cast was during that tenure. If you were to go through, I believe this is year 23 for LeBron. Goodness, and that's also the thing. Like I don't think people appreciate the longevity of LeBron. It really is insane, because I think people are so hell-bent on ring culture. But if you were to go throughout all of his seasons, there are really only a few beyond the seasons he won where he could have maybe won a ring. And his competition was up against either the Dynasty Warriors or the Dynasty Spurs, right? I mean, Michael Jordan was getting his ass whooped by the Bad Boy Pistons and the Larry Bird-led Celtics, among other teams, until he finally broke through when those teams got too old, and he was able to do his thing. Obviously, there was some competition he had to deal with, particularly during the second three-peat for Jordan, when he had to face off against the Utah Jazz twice. I actually forget who his first matchup was in '96 and during that three-peat. But
was it Seattle?
Was it? It may have been Seattle. Which is, it's funny that we forget, because I'm sorry, like, the competition just wasn't as extensive. And so, just in my personal opinion, sorry, I tapped my mic there. Whoopsies.
That's all right.
In my personal opinion, LeBron did everything he could with the resources he had. I don't think people realize the resources and the circumstances that were so favorable under Michael Jordan's disposal. And that's not to discredit what he does. I feel like this argument has become so hateful because people try to bring their opposing player down to promote their own player, which I've engaged in that type of discourse to every possible extent. I'll be honest. Like I'm not gonna shy away from that truth. But with that being said, I think with the longevity, with his at least 4 rings, 4 Finals MVPs, multiple MVPs, and consistent defense as well. I think people always talk about Jordan being a two-way player, but I think LeBron was literally a two-way player practically his entire career up until now, where I feel like he's going a little more focused on offense just because of his age. I think that it really does make him the greatest basketball player of all time, and so that's what I would say to the Jordan truthers, that they really only have the 6 rings to show, and I think that 2016 ring alone is worth more than any of Jordan rings. I'm sorry. That's the truth.
Bold.
Vince.
Yeah.
So Anthony was our president in Model UN last year. He was also in the club all 4 years, and during those 4 years, he did a lot of traveling with the club. Yeah. Do you have a favorite memory from those travels?
Oh, okay. Let me try to think here. I'll talk about a funny memory real quick first. So during our sophomore year, Campbell and I, when we were in Belgium, I had just gone off the train with everyone else, and my little pouch on the right side of my backpack where I was holding my water bottle was very loose. And as a result, my metal, very nice water bottle fell out and went through the seam between the platform and the train and fell right into the train tracks. I was entirely devastated. And so in that moment of devastation, as they already know, I almost tried to lean down, thinking I was tall enough, and grab the water bottle, to which our faculty advisor said, "Stop being stupid. What in the world are you doing?" And I sort of went out of a sort of haze in my mind. I was like, "Oh, wow, I was about to put my hand down on a railroad, on a track in a foreign country." So that was a bit of a funny memory, if you will. I think, one of my personal favorite memories, I'm trying to think. I have one in mind. I'm just trying to think if there are any that top it. And I don't think there are. But I just want to give it a little bit more of a second of thought.
Take your time.
Thank you. I'm sorry, my phone is going off now, and I will stop. My hockey fantasy league was talking. I'll go with this. I forget what night it was, but I don't know if you guys are with us, but it was a group of people. We all went to visit like a bunch of different monuments in DC, and it was just like, it was so sort of nice and peaceful, because for me, like, I'll be honest, I had to overcome a lot of travel anxiety at times. I'm like, not like, I feel lucky because I was in such good circumstances to like overcome it in a sense, and like that's like, those were like, I feel like being at those conferences with the Molly UN team was the best way to do so. But it was sort of nice just being in DC towards the end of the semester, and I felt like most of the semester's activities were behind us. So I feel like my stress levels were a little bit lower, and it was nice because whoever was with at the time, like we were all just able to enjoy that night, the scenery and all the monuments. And I hadn't been. I went to DC twice. We went to DC twice. And I'm sorry. Were you?
I went once.
You went once. All right. Okay.
The group went twice.
Yes. I think this was my first time going. It was just like nice just being with everyone and seeing the monuments, because I hadn't been to DC in so many years, and I was like, it just felt so relaxed and natural. That's something for me. Like I don't like, obviously there are funny moments that have happened with the club, but I feel like what I've enjoyed about it are those like small given events that happen spontaneously, where you're just enjoying the company of other people in the club. And so I feel like that was take from it so fondly in hindsight. And that was one of those supremely fond memories where we were just strolling and looking at monuments. I mean, I there's not much else to say beyond that because not much else happened, but I look back on that very, very happily and very free of stress. So yeah.
It's a good day.
Yeah. And I wanted to ask you, because you were a part of the marching band
That is
team
true,
at
yeah.
the same exact time. So what was it like juggling your responsibilities as president of Mall UM and then also being a part of that team?
It's a very interesting question. And it's interesting, I'll say first, because there were many more parallels than people thought. For example, our faculty advisor actually was a part of that same marching band when he was a student at our university. And so it's funny because he wasn't the only case. There were a lot of other different students throughout the years who had been in the marching band and Mall UN. And so I don't know what it was that makes the two activities similar, other than the kids just being complete nerds. But it sort of made it interesting because I feel like I was living two sides of the same coin in a sense, especially when I became head field conductor my junior year, just as I was vice president my junior and then president my senior year with Madden vice president.
Surrounded by the cabinet here.
So it was interesting because I felt like I was more of a vocal and physical leader, I guess you could say, with the marching band, where I had to be more of a mental and academic leader within the scope of Mall UN. And I think what makes it so interesting is that, we were rehearsing with the marching band multiple times a week during the fall, and then we would have our weekly meetings. So it was like one day I would be like yelling at the top of my lungs to enthusiastically about the band doing well in some capacity. And then the next day I'm quietly up at the front of a classroom just presenting random slides on, to the outsider would be fake parliamentary rules to a bunch of random students. So it was interesting because I felt like I was able to live in both worlds and seamlessly so because I felt like a lot of the personalities were somewhat the same of the people I was interacting with. So I felt like that was almost a blessing because I was able to live two worlds, but the transition between those worlds was closer than ever, especially because our rehearsal area was literally right next to the building where we would have our club meetings. And so everything was sort of happening all at once. And it made it overwhelming, but at the same time, it was, looking back, so much easier to balance than I think a lot of other people when dealing with multiple leadership positions in different groups, where they would have to sacrifice a little bit in the scope of either group. And I was privileged enough, just because of scheduling, because of the circumstances, to not do that. For example, our main conference in the fall would happen the week after our last major performance for marching band. It just happened to be that every calendar year, that's how it worked out. And so there were just some of these things that was kind of blessed. It kind of just seamlessly all went together. And I was able to sort of develop myself as a leader through the people who surrounded me and supported me in different capacities, both, like I said, as sort of that physical vocal leader in marching band, and as that more sort of mental academic leader in the scope of Mall UN. So it was overwhelming, but I think more so a privilege and a blessing.
Yeah, that's a great answer.
It is.
That's great. All right, so now we are at the end of the podcast, and we are going to ask Anthony our question from last week's guest, Tommy, from our Hanukkah special. Anthony.
Yes.
Tommy would like to know, if you could run for any political office in any country, what would it be?
Oh my goodness. Okay. This is so interesting. Maybe it's a little selfish of me, but I will say I would love to run for a more figurative office. And kind of just and not that's dare I say it's not an office you could run for, but could I say the the Pope seat.
Yes.
That's what I was thinking you were going to say.
Not because that the Pope is much less of a figurative figure, but I feel like he's someone who has so much of a capability to inspire peace and stability through wielding so little hard power. And I feel like that's where I wouldn't want to be in a position where I would have to be forced to wield an extensive amount of hard power, but I still want to make an impact. And I feel like that's where the Pope's role lies so perfectly. Actually, in Harry Potter, it's talked about a bit how Dumbledore is, especially in the first few books, he's seen as this perfect figure as the head of Hogwarts, and he can do no wrong. But obviously, as we learn through his backstory, he did do quite a bit of wrong. And part of it is because, and part of the reason why he took a turn from his wrongful ways was because he separated himself from being tempted by power. It's actually part of the reason why he never took the office of the Minister of Magic, because even though he would have been probably perfect for the role above a lot of pretty incompetent ministers of magic, he knew he would be so tempted by the power of the office that he didn't want to subject himself to abusing other people through such power. And so, not that I feel like I would be in that position where I would succumb to the temptations and be abusing people, but I don't want to even be in that predicament in the first place. I want to be in a position where my power exclusively comes from ensuring peace and stability. So
it's a good answer.
That is.
And your question for next week's guest?
My question for next week's guest, and this relates back to my little history tidbit with my dad and General Germanicus, is I was in bed about a week or two ago, and I was like, it'd be so cool if I just had a real dream where I was in somewhere back in time for just one day. I was just observing, seeing what was going on. And so my question for this podcast next guest is to give a very specific time in history and place of where they would want to be during a dream, but for actually in that place and time for a day, just to observe and see what's going on and why they would choose that time and place. So,
that's a good question.
A very good question.
I got a good answer. That's great. And now it's time for rapid fire questions.
Okay.
You guys know how this goes. Me and Owen are going to ask rapid fire questions. You can answer as quickly or as long as you want.
I'll try to be quick. I have been very deliberative so far, so I'll
no problem with that.
Great. And Owen, lead it off.
So I always love to ask the guests, what is your favorite book that you've ever read?
Oh goodness. Can I say a book I'm reading now?
Yes.
Because I'll try to be quick with this. I have been such a poor reader in recent years, but I'm currently reading Letters from Seneca. And so it's essentially an amalgamation of the letters that the Roman philosopher, Stoic philosopher Seneca was sending to one of his friends and pupils, Lucilius. So that has been, he's witty, he's fun, but he gives really, really good advice. And it's just such an interesting read because it also gives some insight into just the daily life of Rome. So yeah.
Good answer. Yeah.
What is the favorite topic you've ever debated in Model UN?
Oh, okay. I think it honestly, it has to be the South China Sea. I mean, when I debated it with the Security Council, I was representing Japan, and there were some other people in the committee that were very poor debaters to the point at which they made the debate experience a little bit negative, not entirely, but the topic was so interesting, and it was so interesting studying the Japanese position on the topic and what they saw the South China Sea to be moving forward. And so it was nice because I felt like I could take this mediator role, but at the same time I could take a really definitive stance in favor of, in the case of Japan, for a free and open Indo-Pacific. So it was really interesting because I was everything was so clear to me. I will say another topic I really enjoyed researching was the Sudanese Civil War, which, I mean, it's not being called a civil war currently, but it's the Sudanese conflict going on. It's essentially the third civil conflict beyond their two civil wars since their independence. So it has been, even though it's very unfortunate, circumstance, a very fascinating situation to study and see unfold.
You just talked about Harry Potter.
Yes.
So I wanted to ask you, which one is your favorite? Which of the 7?
Of the 7. Okay, this is not everyone's favorite. Order of the Phoenix.
Good pick.
I love the movie, first of all, and like the book is like, I get the book is like long and drags on, but I feel like the last 2 books, they're amazing. But I feel like what makes Harry Potter for me personally amazing is the world building, and that is set up in defines itself in those first few books, where like you like just the way it's written, you feel like you're a student at Hogwarts in such a fascinating way. And so I feel like Order of the Phoenix is the last of that type of book.
I agree.
Obviously, the Half-Blood Prince sort of still has that routine of the school year being the format of the plot and the structure, but it ends in such a devastating way that it completely veers from that. But Order of the Phoenix, even though obviously it also has a devastating end, which was the death of Sirius Black, it doesn't have that sort of definitive ending where, like with the end of Half-Blood Prince, Hermione, Ron, and Harry all realize that they're not coming back to Hogwarts next year. So I feel like Order of the Phoenix is kind of nice, and especially after having graduated, it sort of feels nostalgic. So you're like, oh, it's a school year again. And like, it's probably the most interesting plot because Voldemort's back. And so it has this nice sort of hybrid between being kind of dark and interesting, but not taking away from the warmth of the Hogwarts world building. The warmth is what I would say. Yeah.
Okay. Are the Patriots winning the Super Bowl this year?
Before we even finish the question, sorry. Yes, they are. I mean, it's going to be tough, but I just think that this league currently is so open with how the Chiefs have. Actually, okay, you're going to find this history tidbit quite funny, I hope. So I almost am comparing the AFC right now to the Bronze Age collapse, because it's like out of nowhere, all of the major teams have just fell apart. I mean, the Bengals kind of always been a mess, but the Bengals are a mess. They're definitely not making the playoffs. The Chiefs likely won't make the playoffs. The Ravens somehow are probably going to lose the division, even though it was so open to them. And then it's like how Egypt barely came out of the Bronze Age collapse. The only one left standing is the Bills, and knock on wood, they're hopefully losing the division. So I honestly believe that we're seeing sort of like a Bronze Age collapse type of era in specifically the AFC, but kind of the NFL at large. And so I feel like that's going to open the way for the Patriots to definitely make a run with Drake May. I feel like maybe Stafford is a slight favorite for MVP right now, but I think Drake May has been playing better with the fewer assets and resources he has at his disposal. So I feel like we're going to see that trophy be held. Sorry, Lombardi, right?
Yes.
Lombardi. I'm sorry, I was thinking of Larry O'Brien. No, Lombardi be held up by Drake May and the Patriots. So yeah,
I'm looking forward to that. Very important question.
Yes.
You are an Italian.
Yes.
So I wanted to ask you, what is your favorite shape of pasta?
Ooh, okay. It's sort of a classic for me, rigatoni. I like to keep it simple. I just it's easy. I actually am not the biggest fan of more stringy pasta. Like spaghetti's all right, but like I love sort of the more concrete pasta shapes. So penne, rigatoni, anything sort of within that vein, my favorite.
Yeah. For my final rapid fire question, I'd like to forward you a question from week 18's guest.
Okay.
Yes.
What makes you feel most alive?
What made? Oh wow. Okay. Interesting. You know what made me? Okay, so I'll talk about a small little story. What made me feel alive last night was the fact that the smoke alarm right by my bed went off at 2:30 a.m. So that certainly made me feel a little too alive this morning, I guess you could say. Goodness. But I guess in general, what makes me feel alive is sounds stupid, but my family. I feel like they have kept me and continue to keep me grounded throughout my entire life, just in my values and allowing. And they've always been very open and encouraging of me to find what's best for myself. And I feel like by finding what's best for myself, I've been able to help and serve others, at least to the extent that I can, in the best way possible. And so I feel like, my family is what makes me feel the most alive.
That's a great answer. That's a great answer. Well, thank you so much for coming on this podcast.
It's been my pleasure. This is wonderful. Wonderful. I should do these more often.
Any final words for the viewers? You don't have to have any.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Christmas.
Yes. Yuletide blessings, I guess as they may say, and find what makes you feel alive.
That's great.
Really.
That's great.
That's pretty profound.
Yeah. Great. Oh, and any final words?
Don't be a Grinch. Be kind to everyone.
I almost said
8-9. I'd say, just keep the Christmas spirit alive.
Yeah. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you for watching. Woo.